How could I possibly give a talk about worship? That was the first thing that went through my mind when I read an email Jenny sent to me 2 weeks ago, inviting me to do this worship talk here in front of all of you at the Sunday worship service. I mean, I thought that maybe I worshiped a little bit, but that was still pushing it pretty far. For the past 2 years, really, I moved Christ into the backseat of my life. School, practice, singing, friends, just about everything else came first, actually. Aside from grace, praying at home, or even anywhere that wasn't church, didn't really happen that often. Even when I was at church, I was always thinking about something else that distracted me from my worship. Whether that was friends, or homework I had to do later that afternoon. So you can understand why I was kind of hesitant to give this talk, because the last thing I wanted to do was stand up in front of all of you and lie, and say that my wonderful experience here at St. John's has led me to go home and pray every single night and be a perfect Christian. I'm not. So I talked the invitation over with my mom, and I emailed Jenny, outlining my doubts about me as a candidate for this talk, and about my doubts about faith as a whole. The next day, Jenny emailed me back and said something along the lines of, "Having doubt is entirely normal. Let's touch base on Sunday." So next Sunday rolled around, and I was kind of nervous, because Jenny's kind of intimidating. She is. So she pulled me outside of training that day, and we started our talk. And I outlined my fears, and she kind of answered them. And at the end, she asked a really simple question. "What is your favorite thing about St. John's?" And I thought about it, because it's not an easy answer, and I have a lot of things to choose from. Was it possibly the pilgrimage I went on 2 years ago, where I got to witness firsthand on iota how close you could possibly get to God? Or was it that the mission trip I went on, I think it was a year and a half ago, to Ohio, where I really got to see the power we had to help those less fortunate than us? Or maybe it was Discovery Weekend, where I got to see all these little kids go from being so awkward the first Friday night to actually being best friends by the end today at the worship service. And the more I thought about it, the more I found something in common. The community, I answered. If there's one thing that makes St. John's unique, it is the network of support present. Whether that is within your youth group on the pilgrimage, your friends on the mission trip, or between your Discovery group at Discovery Weekend. If there's one thing that shocks me, that amazes me about this church, it is the bonds we form with each other, and the support we have for everyone in this room. But as I said all these great things, I still wasn't sure. Just because I love all the people at my church, is that really sufficient, and does that really qualify as worship? Because I've always thought of worship as reading the Bible from front to back and going home and praying every night, and it's not something I do. But Jenny answered with a phrase that really threw me for a loop. She said, "Isn't this community, these bonds you make, just a form of worship?" And that really struck me. To think that maybe, by supporting someone as they come up here and share a very personal traumatic event that happened last year, or even simply hanging out with my friends at Adam's house last night, that maybe these events, in and of themselves, are a form of worship, was a foreign thought to me. So I went back, and as I was writing this, I did a little bit of research to see what the Bible had to say on the matter. And Google, the wonderful invention that it is, let me do this passage from John 13:34-35, in which Jesus says to his disciples, "So now I am giving you a new commandment. Love each other. Just as I have loved you, you should love each other. Your love for one another will prove to the world that you are my disciples." Not only was this form of worship, but Jesus had found it so important that he actually made it a commandment, which puts it in my mind equal with the 10 Commandments, if not above. And I think this passage, more than any other in the Bible, this 11th commandment per se, encompasses the essence of St. John's, and it is why I love this church so much. I find St. John's to be so unique in that we do an unparalleled job in establishing a safe, secure community. A safe, secure community. I know it is definitely true for me, and I think it's true for many other people in this room, that St. John's is their rock, their safe spot, and that it'll always support them in all of their endeavors, and they'll always feel totally confident coming here and revealing any issue they have. And although at times I may question my faith or disagree with portions of the Bible, I will always hold this passage, this ideal, in high esteem. Because if there's any form of worship that deserves my attention, that I should strive to hold on to, it is this type. For in loving those around you, I know that my life is usually enriched that much more. just as you will enrich that person's. And it's because St. John's does such a great job of nurturing this, of establishing this in its young kids, that I love this church so much.